Do you have a horse or ag-related business? On the Move has a truly global audience that reaches listeners from every corner of the horse world. We are currently looking for sponsors to run advertisements for on the show. If you'd like to get involved, you can reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, or email us at theonthemovepodcast@gmail.com. And now, here's the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of On the Move. I'm your host, Joe McDonald. Before we get started on the episode today, I just want to remind everybody that the way we grow this show is by you, the listener, supporting us online. You can do that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere you can view podcasts. You can also follow us on our social media pages. So that's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Again, the more people that follow and share and like our content, the more this can grow and the more we can continue to get awesome people on the show and keep doing this cool thing that's really grown into an awesome wealth of information, at least for me. And judging by the viewership numbers, it continues to grow. And that's thanks to support of people like you guys. So if you like this episode, share it with a friend, follow us, all that good stuff. Leading me to the episode today, the awesome person we get to talk to today is David Sharp of Dublin, Texas. David is a rope horse trainer who runs Sharp horses with his wife, Taylor. David, thanks for joining us today, man.
You bet, bud. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Heck yeah. And I know you're a rope horse trainer, and we'll get into that. But the conversations we've had in the past, I know you have a real appreciation for the cow horse and the tradition there. And from this angle, I can't help but admire that the bit set up on your wall back there. That's what kind of setup is that?
Man, that's a Garcia from back in the day. I think Taylor's mom won that. I think she won that or got that for being on a drill team or something. They're from California originally, and so she had. She's gonna love me saying that on a podcast. She's been in Texas for a long time, so she keeps that well hid. But that was passed down from her mom from when she was a kid, and then I think Taylor rode it for quite a bit, and then it's just a cool bit. And it's kind of been passed down, and we had it on her horse when we took our wedding pics and stuff like that. So it's hung up on the wall there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes it extra special right there. Yeah. Cool. So let's lead into that. You're talking about your wedding picture and Taylor there. You want to talk a little bit about your business that you and your wife run there in Texas?
Absolutely. Taylor, she rides a barrel horse side of it, and she rides some colts with me as well. And then most of her horses are going headed to futurity is generally what they're going to do. And then obviously later on there'll be jackpot horses or rodeo horses for people. And then I do head horses. I was a 2-year-old guy for a long time, and now just ride head horses. We make them from some of them from 2-year-olds all the way up to their 4 and 5-year-old year, and we show the better end of them. And some of them come to us, and maybe it's a 3 or 4-year-old, and they have a little riding on them, and we just put them on the head side and get them ready to go jackpot. And so that's typically our business. We ride together quite every day, but we ride behind each other well. We get along. We both like the way each other sets up the horses. Some of the horses that I show in futurity, like one of the horses I showed this year, he's her barrel futurity horse for next year, and we'll do some of both on him next year. That you don't see that a lot, but we enjoy doing that. We feel like it gives them another job and something else to do, and so we get along good doing that. And so I handle the head horses, and then she handles the barrel horses, and we kind of we can put eyes on each other's horses and kind of know where each other's at or hop on each other's horses, and I don't want to say fix things, but just ride behind each other and kind of bounce ideas off each other, and that goes real well.
Yeah. No, one, that's awesome that you're able to do that. And two, I can tell you from personal experience, hopefully you guys have a good marriage, because one of the
Yeah.
hardest things to do is ride, like follow your spouse on a horse.
Yeah.
Because my wife and I, when we first started riding and training together, um, that was the topic of some really lively conversation. Was us following each other on the horses and figuring out how to coexist there. And now I think we're at the point where we do it really well. Like I said, she can hop on any of my client horses or my horses, and I can hop on hers, and we're different disciplines like y'all, but um, we've kind of over time built a program that we've found that works for us and helps develop the horses the right way. But um, man, sometimes it can be very humbling when you think you have some things figured out, and then your wife comes and gives you some other opinions about it.
Yeah, no, I think we both want to really bro and kind of set up for the same because I think there's a lot of similarities in like the run rate situation and the barrel horse world and the head horse world. And so what we want, some of those barrel racers, they say they don't want them very broke and they like to keep their spirit or whatever. And whatever works for them, I don't know. That's not what works for us. We want a really broke horse. We want a horse that, like even our barrel horses, I got a buddy, Josh Beavers, that he heals for me most of the week, and he has some care for cows, meaning he looks after some people's cows and rides through them and doctor the sick ones or whatever. And so she's not one bit scared to take one of those barrel horses out there, no tie down, no nothing, no big bit, just put a grazing bit on them and go right through the pasture with us and right through the cows. And we want to develop a good broke horse that you can enjoy outside the arena. We feel like it helps their mind inside the arena, and so we try to put the same buttons on them. We're big on having them a lot of body control on them and getting them around and getting them on their butt. And so it's not been the fight has never been how we like them. It may be more how to get there or how one of us is the tone one of us is saying it in. And we've
Mhm.
learned over time. If you got two choices really when you work with your spouse, you can have a great day and learn how to apologize to one another, or you can't. That's kind of the option. So it can be a long old day sold up trying to be mad at somebody all day, and training
Mhm.
horses is hard enough. So if you'll just get over it, and somebody, it's her some days, it's me some days, that you say something just in the heat of the day in the moment, you don't mean it, and you're not talking down or calling names, you just snap and say something over your shoulder, and you say something blunt or rude and maybe not in the best tone, and you learn to say, hey, I didn't mean it that way, I shouldn't have said it like that, and then you can go on and have a good day after. Otherwise, you're pretty miserable around each other all day. So you
Yeah.
learn what makes each other tick and how to get along. And uh, I think it's really helped our marriage, where I think it could have the ability to really hurt a marriage if both people
Mhm.
weren't willing to come together and do that. We really get along well, and we enjoy watching each other's horses grow too. That's been cool. So she's a good set of eyes for me. I know what she's looking for on her horses, and I know she knows what I'm looking for on mine. And so it's good to be able to say, "Hey, what did he look like there? What was that? Did he look like he was doing this? He felt like this." Or video each other working a horse and say, "Hey, would you video this real quick? I want to see something," and then break
Mhm.
it down and talk about it for a minute. So it's been real beneficial like that for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome to hear. Don't even get me started on the tone conversation. That was me. I when I first got married, and like, don't anyone take this as me. I'm not trying to rip on my wife, because I think she had a lot of valid points, and it's my marriage has helped me grow in ways I never even imagined.
Right.
But it just makes me laugh, because I can't tell you the amount of times I would like say something at the barn, be like, "Well, why'd you do that?" Or blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all I said was blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but it was your tone. And,
Right.
and I heard that all the time. It's like, yeah, but it was your tone. And cause up until that point, um, I'd grown up in like farming and ranching, but I don't know. I guess guys are less, they don't pick up on that stuff the same way. And then all of a sudden I'm making a living in horses, and the horse industry in a lot of places is female dominated. So you're working with a lot of women now, and everyone's picking up on your tone all the time. I'm like, I've never had to think about my tone. I just tell you what to do, you know, or
Yeah.
I get told what to do. Like, what do you mean we're
Right.
talking about tone? We just got like find out the job and then we go do the job. So I'd like to think in the couple years of marriage that I've had working with my wife, my tone is something that has greatly improved in the workplace.
Congratulations, Joe. You're making strides.
I'm trying, man. Like you said, the other alternative is just long, hot, miserable days
I
training
mean,
horses. It's not very fun when
no.
everybody's kind of on the muscle all day, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. So I want to jump into it. I'd love to just kind of talk more about the business and the perspective you have on everything, because if if someone came to me today and they were like, "Hey, I'm going to train horses. I just know it's going to be some sort of western discipline, but I'm going to train horses, and I don't I like what discipline do you think I would should pick?" And to pick team roping and barrel racing, it's like, well, there's more team ropers and barrel racers than anything else out there, right? So
No.
I imagine one of the things you have going for you, and I'm not saying it's easy, but you compare that to being like a cow horse guy or a reiner barn or something like that. Like I live in Virginia, and there's still more barrel racers and team ropers than like any other Western discipline. You know what I mean? Like they're all over the country. Um, it's everywhere. So it seems like if you're in the business of making good rope horses or good barrel horses, there will almost always be a market for them, right? Where I know some show guys, maybe they're like AQHA guys or um, reiners or whatever it is, or cow horse guys. Like the cow horse is a good example. Like cow horse is getting more popular all the time, but cow horse still very much, I feel like, exists in pockets around the
Right.
country,
Yeah.
right? Where team roping and barrel racing is universal. You can
Right.
go to pretty much any county in the country
Yeah. You
and
can go to
find
Brazil,
somebody.
Brazil or Canada or Italy, and
A
yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So could you maybe comment on that a little bit? Like as far as, you know, it's always, there's always going to be competition. You're always going to have to do a good job. But you guys have found yourself both in like big thriving disciplines right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. I think it's got its, I mean, it's like everything. It's got its good and bad. So when you have that much team roping and that much barrel racing, I would say there's a whole lot more top futurity trainers in the barrel horse world with good barrel horses than there are top cow horse trainers. So the
Mhm.
competition's different. So
Yeah.
while the pool of horses and the pool of clients is bigger, the competition is stiffer. So that, and then the expectations are higher, right?
Mhm.
Like, so that's kind of tricky. Yeah, you do have more, but there's more people at the top. So if there's more people at the top, they've been doing it for years and years. How do you beat them? How do you get in? And the same in the team roping, although that futurity world is new, I mean, it's sure come on strong. And there's a good, I don't know, 20 or 30 guys there that do it really well, and have good clients and really good horses. And so don't let me sound like I'm whining about it at all. It's a great problem to have that so many people are at the top. But I feel like there's a smaller sect of probably Western pleasure trainers and cow horse trainers at the top, I would
Yeah.
think, than the barrel horse world and the team. And I could be wrong on that, on the team
I'd
roping
agree
world,
with you.
you
I'd
know.
agree with you
So,
on that.
so that does make it tougher. And then two, they talk about in the cow horse world, they factor in the cow and say, well, the cow is the great equalizer, and that's, you got to draw good. And then that is true, and it's true in the team roping deal too, but you also got to factor in your health. And like, I can think about a horse here specifically of mine that like I had huge high hopes for. and I have, and this isn't a knock on any help I've ever had. I hire like the best guys in the business to make up for anything that I do on the front end to catch on the back end and catch fast and shut the run down. And I've had a horse here, and I mean, he's not one near what I thought he should. And some of it was guys roping legs or missing steers, or they didn't like a shot, so they ran by the shot, and we were a little longer, and it affected our
Mm.
score. And so I think that can be, not only do I have to draw good, now I got another guy and his horse in the equation. Now he's probably going to be riding something very nice because he's hired to heel right there. So 9 times out of 10, those guys do really well and they do their job and they do it so good. But they're also human and they have a horse that could make a mistake as well. So you factor in a whole nother guy and his horse in the equation. Well, you've got more that can go wrong in the situation, if that makes sense. So I think it can be tough, really, really tough to everybody get on the same page, draw good, and just complete the course and do your job well. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people see the slow motion runs nowadays on the reels, and the same in the cow horse world. Like, oh man, I could run one down the fence and turn him. Shoot, I could do that in your roping arena, and you might could, but you probably couldn't circle him up. Uh, you definitely wouldn't have control to do it more than a few times. Your horse would just be running by. Uh, so there's good guys that are really good at it. They make it look easy, right? Like I'm a good guitar players. They make it look easy, and so I think sometimes people online think, oh, they're just catching. I could go do that, but there's a whole lot more to it. You're talking about going and being judged on every part of the run in the rope horse futurity. And that's a lot different than just going and making good runs, because a good run
Mhm.
isn't always, everything's not always correct. It just looks
Mhm.
pretty good. That's a pretty good run. You had a pretty good time. Everybody did their job. But in the real horse industry, where you're walking in a box and you're getting graded as you're turning around and as you're setting your horse up, how your horse leaves and how he runs and races to the cow and how he sets up to run in the corner. Every part of the run you're being judged on. That's way different than just going to a jackpot catching your steers. So
Mhm.
while it looks easy sometimes, just going at any level from the limited, the intermediate, all the way to open, it's tough at any level to complete the course, do a good job, and get even an average score.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense, right? Just the depth, as you alluded to, the depth of the industry makes the competition that much tougher. Um, Let me ask you this, and feel free to disagree with me because I don't know
Sure.
anything about it. But say we're continue that cow horse, and it could be anything, like you said, it could be pleasure, the ranch, or whatever. Um, but so there's less guys at the top at say cow horse than maybe the rope horse. But would you say so? That's from a competitor standpoint. Now, if I'm
Right.
a trainer trying to make a living and not necessarily like competing, but I'm just training the horses, do you think it's easier to make a living as a rope horse trainer or a living as a cow horse trainer? Because I would think the smaller industry, it's like you get to the top, it's like, okay, well, now, not that cow horse isn't competitive. That's not what I'm saying, people. But you get to the top and it's like, okay, now there's less big players. So maybe there's a chance for me to get a piece of it. But if you're in that kind of like, say you're outside of Texas, because that's where like kind of where my head goes. Say you're somebody in Nebraska and you have local clientele and maybe you go up and down the road to a couple futurities a year, right? But you're not in like a horse hotbed. You're somewhere where I'm like more of a local or regional type trainer. Do you think that's easier in on the rope and barrel side because it's bigger and there's more people doing it? Or am I just kind of making that up? Because it is an assumption. I'm just
I don't,
asking.
there's not a lot of like regional futurities, or like, I know there's places that have cow horse shows or like weekend shows in the cutting. That's another thing. And then there's like smaller, maybe regional, like the Southwest Association or whatever here, Rank Cow Horse Association. They have some regional stuff as well,
Hmm.
other than just NC8. What are the initials for that? National Rank Cow Horse Association. Anyways,
Yeah.
there's more regional stuff. Whereas like in the team roping futurities, for the most part, there's not a lot of regional, like it's just the bigger
Okay.
futurities, you know. So
Interesting.
if you were in Pennsylvania, you would have to drive down here, or Rapid City to the Royal Crown, or somewhere where they were at Buckeye to the Royal Crown, or I keep saying Royal Crown, the Real Buckle, wherever you go, you would have to leave where you were at to get to a rope horse futurity. Whereas sometimes they're more regional or weekend or club things for cutting and cow horse, I would say. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's really no comparing the two because they're so vastly different. But I would say a guy with a cow horse background, for the most part, could go do whatever he wanted with a horse. I have the most respect for them. I think they're so well rounded. While I made it sound like team roping was maybe harder because you had a partner, that's also not true because you have to do 3 events and if you were going to
Yeah.
train to do cow horse, you have to have footing and ground that's going to hold up to it. You need a place that's got a branding big enough to go down the fence in, but a cutting pin, but also good ground for the reining. Like it would be very tough to. So if you could go somewhere and learn that, I think it would be pretty ideal because it would set you up for whatever you want to do on a horse after that. Typically, you could take a horse out of that world that had been through the snaffle bit futurity as a 3-year-old, and he could go run barrels or rope or depending on the horse and maybe cut if he was
Mhm.
good enough on that. He would have a future in there. So those horses are really more broke and well
Sure.
rounded because they've spent more time doing that. I have a whole lot of respect for them for sure.
Right. Yeah, and same here. Again, I wasn't using that analogy to pick on cow horse people.
Sure, yeah.
I
No, I
just
didn't think you
I
were.
I think the rope horse thing is in a way a little foreign to me just because I haven't really been in that world. But I do know pretty much every county I've driven through in the United States, you can find somebody's roping pin or like there's just a lot of team ropers out there.
Yes, sir.
Right. And that's the thing I think the industry has going is, people like anyone can do it, kind of the same as the barrel racing. Now, takes a special person to do it well, but a lot of people can do it recreationally, compared to something like the cow horse or maybe some other show
Yes.
disciplines.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with that. Yeah.
yeah. So that leads me to my next question. And facilities have been on my mind because we're about to start building our barn. Um, if you were like go back to you're that kid in Louisiana, you're like, I'm gonna start say you're going to be a rope horse trainer. I know, you were more colt starting, but say there's some kid back in Louisiana who's like, David, I'm going to be a rope horse trainer. I'm going to do it here. What are the essentials to get started as far as the facility is concerned? And the reason I ask this is this show has kind of taken me a lot of different places over the country. And I've seen the fully built out facility of the multi-million-dollar rider, and then I've seen the guy who's making a living training cutting horses, and he's got, his indoor is a hoop barn and his outdoor is a little square pen, and the stalls are built in an old dairy barn or something. But the guy makes a living going to NCHA shows. And
Right.
you can there's like a whole spectrum in between, right? And it's really got me thinking. It's like, man, I think a lot of times, don't get me wrong, it's nice to have a really nice facility, but I think a lot of times people don't think about this is what this is the bare minimum I need to get started, and then we can progress from there as the program grows. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you're a rope horse guy, like where do you need to start, and then how would you build from there, and maybe talk a little bit about the facility you guys have or where some different places you go to train.
Yeah, I think if it was a younger guy, I would tell him to ideally to get started to get around here where there's a hotbed of guys. I know what it did for me to get here. I know that's easy out. Everybody acts like Texas is heaven, but for what we do in the Western performance horse world, you just have so many guys that are at the top of their game here, and you can get around them and ask them questions and go get lessons. You can work for them. You can intern under them, and you can grow I mean, just leaps and bounds in a short period of time. Whereas if you're not around that, it's real tough. So I think I would tell that young guy, go intern somewhere and
Mhm.
start at the bottom and lope and groom and catch horses and saddle horses. And if he roped pretty good already back home, to try to get in where he was turning steers or heeling steers every day for somebody and work his way in there. And maybe they could have a deal where they could bring a personal horse or two or three outside horses that they were riding, so because the job's not going to pay very good. It's going to pay 1,500 a month or so. And if it's got housing, great. And if they could take care of your horses for you, that would save on hay. And so then you could make whatever you were making on your outside horses, and that could supplement the rest of your income. That would kind of be an ideal situation for a young guy getting in a facility to train rope horses. And because you can do something wrong a long time and never know that you're doing it wrong unless you're around good people that can tell you otherwise. You can
Mhm.
be the best in your pool and your small group, and then you get to where it's really going on and think, oh man, I'm behind it. You hear that story a lot when people get to town, or they get out here and they're like, I had no idea what I didn't know, you know. And so I think that would be the wise thing to do, would be getting one of those good programs. And those guys are always looking for people. Uh, Now, there's two reasons they're looking for people. One is kids don't really want to work nowadays, and they say they're passionate and they really want to row, but that's all they want to do. They don't understand that, like, the majority of the job is the chores that get
Yeah.
ready to do the training or the roping. So that's part of it. The other part of it is some of these trainers are just hot-headed jerks and they treat people like they're dogs, and people don't like that very much. And so that's why our military doesn't do very well nowadays. And I sound like I'm getting on a soapbox, and I'm not, but we're in a softer time where people don't take ass chewings very well. And the other part is they shouldn't have to every day. Either if they can't do the job that well and they need to be talked to like that, maybe it's not working out. Maybe they need to go do something else. But I think too, that's kind of old school mentality, is like, if you yell at somebody and cuss at somebody enough, they get better. And I don't necessarily think it takes that.
Mhm.
And so there's kind of two reasons for the turnover out here so much, and in the lower end of in the industry. I'll just say the Western performance industry, is some of it is that the kids don't want to work, and then some of it is that the people are really hard to work for.
Mhm.
That being said, that's going around grandma's house to answer your question about a facility. If you could get a facility and work for a guy like that when you're 18 or 19, by the time you were 25 or 26, you'd probably be a pretty dang good hand if you'd really asked your questions and done your homework. And there's places for rent out here that a guy could come rent, and you just need an arena and a place to keep some steers and probably some cover for some horses to get them out of some weather. That doesn't mean you need a show barn. That could be loafing sheds. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I think it's nice that when people pull up, your clients pull up, whether you have 3 horses or 30, that the horses look the part, they're clean, uh, their pens are well kept, they're not eat up with flies, they're full. You can tell they're being fed and kept up with. So that doesn't, now we have fly sheets on everything protecting coats. It's turned out, and tail bags in and stuff like that. But early on, it wasn't like that for me. We
Mhm.
were making horses that were going on some of the 2-year-olds I rode were going to the cow horse world, but some of them were going to be ranch horses, and some of them were just going to be jackpot horses. And it was just like, hey, I want this horse gentle and really broke and doing as much as they can in the time you have. And so I did a lot of that. So I think facility, just an arena, access to steers, a place to keep the steers, because you don't just need arena, you need somewhere for the rope and steers. And then the other part is you need somebody to rope with you. And if you don't have an automatic chute, have a manual chute set up to where you can have a pull cord or some kind of string and do it like that. But I don't think it's really that thing where I like roping. I think I want to be a rope horse trainer. You can do it like that. There might be stories like that, but I don't think that would be a wise route to just go rent a place. And I see it a lot. We kind of live in a
Yeah.
hotbed out here of it, and kids will be kind of the dog back home when they're circle, or even jackpotting here. They'll get really good at the jackpots, and they'll say, on Facebook now accepting outside horses, and like they weren't last week, but today they are. You can send a horse today, and so they haven't trained this horse that they're competing on. They bought him trained or partially trained, and they really don't know about the foundation on a horse. But now they're accepting outside horses, and so I say that not to make fun of them, but it just seems outlandish to me coming through the
Mm.
2 year old deal and kind of paying my dues and understanding that stuff. And they just decide I compete well, so I can train well. Well, that's not, those are two different things. You can hop on a finish horse and be able to do it, but you can't really, you don't understand what it takes to get him to that point to be able to do that. So I see that a lot, and they kind of hang their shingle out, and they get a few outside horses from people they know, and then they kind of lose interest, and they realize there's not a lot of money in it, and man, rent's high out here because I have to have an arena and a house and paying for these steers, and have to have somebody to help me all the time because I need somebody to team rope with, you know. And so it's not long that kid moves back home, or they go find a job, or they do something else, or they start shooting horses. And I'm not knocking that because it probably wasn't meant for them then if they bowed out, you know, in the first year or two. It was real hard for me at first, and it's hard for a lot of people at first. And I don't say that to make fun of that kid, but I see that scenario a lot where like they
Mhm.
can afford the facility. There's enough facilities here to rent out. They find somewhere, but then they realize, man, this is a lot. And these clients don't just come because I make myself a performance horses internet page, you know, or because I wanted the jackpot. And so it's a really tough place to do it. That being said, there's a lot of horses here, and there's a lot of access to get help here. So if you can tough it out and you can get around those good guys and you can better yourself, and you can get clients from maybe in the area that you're from. So me being from Louisiana, the first couple of years I lived out here, I only trained Louisiana, Mississippi horses and
Mhm.
Arkansas horses. And I would go back home and I would visit family, and I would bring horses back this way. And then I'd bring them back when they were done with their 60 days or 90 days or whatever. And so I did that for a long time before I ever, why would they bring a horse to me? I was jackpotting pretty decent, but why, there's great trainers everywhere. Why would they bring them to you? There's a trainer, all my neighbors, I say all my neighbors, it feels like all my neighbors are pretty good at trainers around here. And they're rope horse trainers, a lot of them. Why would they bring them to me? And so I feel like I've been talking a long time, but I'm pretty passionate about that. That you see it happen. Like it seems like it's the easy thing to do is to jump in and well, I'm taking outside horses now, but there's a lot more to it than just putting out a thing on Facebook saying you're doing it and that you rope really well. I think there's a foundation that needs to be built, and you need to learn how to walk before you run. And a lot of people just learn how to run. They learn how to rope really well on a good finished horse, and that is great and that is handy. How that horse get to that place. And I think
Yeah.
that's where they're understanding the 2 year olds and the foundation and how to use your legs and how to build softness and roundness and things like that. How to build a stop on a horse that's not real stoppy on his own. Some of them can't come out dragging their butt, and some of them you can develop a stop in them. So I think that did me well, and a lot of other guys well early on was ride junk that we did early on. And not saying all the horses were junk, but definitely there was some junk in there, and you just had to figure out how to make a good horse out of them, you know. So that client would be happy. So he would tell us, buddy, about you. So you continue to get horses, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, and you hit the nail on the head there. Um, I read it yesterday, and I'm not going to recite it word for word, but there's a verse in the Bible that says, He who can be trusted with little can be trusted with much." And basically, he who cannot be trusted with little cannot be trusted with much. Right. And I feel like what you just said, where if you have to do a good job on the horses that maybe aren't the super elite horses that were the reason you decided to get into horse training, right?
right,
You know, you're gonna have those in your barn. You're gonna have the horses that don't really. You're gonna wake up and you're hopefully gonna do a good job, but they don't make you jump out of bed and say, "I can't wait to ride that horse tomorrow." You
right.
know,
Yeah,
um, but you have to do a good job with those horses, because if you don't, how are you ever going to be prepared when someone does send you a nice one? Or maybe someone never sends you a nice one in the first place because they have the buddy with the kind of average horse and he said, he didn't do a great job, you know, or I don't
yeah,
know that he was riding him every day or whatever it is.
yeah. I
Um,
think I think you are exactly right. That's kind of always been my, even back in the day when we didn't have the horses we have now, is making sure those 2 year olds, when they went home, you could clip them. Their ears are clipped. If you don't have to do that to a horse, but we just go the extra mile, picking up their feet. Their tail would be longer. Their coat would be better.
Hmm.
Uh, you just did whatever I had. I tried to make it as nice as I could. You know what I mean? So then when people would come over, like right now, if you come over, everything looks nice. Now, they're really well bred horses now and everything's, they're all really nice, but our facility's not super fancy, but it's clean. Everything here, what we do have is nice and they look really well. So you do as much as you can with what you have,
Hmm.
and then I think people respect that. And I think when our horses go to town, whether that's for Taylor to take her futurity colts to town, exhibition them, because in that world, their futurities, you can't enter them. You have 1 year to futurity them, whereas in our rope horse world, you could compete on them the whole time leading up to them roping and get them ready. You could take them to smaller jackpots or whatever you wanted to. In the barrel horse world, you can't do that. And so she'll take them to town. When they go to town, they look the part. That's our business card. That's the public seeing our horses. That's not for show. It's for we care. You trusted us with a nice horse, and we're going to do our best to make that horse look as nice as it can. And we feel like too, generally like a human, if a human is in shape and they look good, they got a smile on their face, they probably feel good on the inside, and they're probably going to do well in life. Well, I feel like a horse is a
Hmm.
lot the same in that way. You know.
Yeah, 100%. You know, Deion Sanders.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but isn't he the one who's like, you look good, you feel
Yeah.
good, you feel
Yeah. Look
good,
good.
you play
That's
good,
it.
they pay
Yeah,
good.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So let's get in. You alluded to it a little bit. Let's get into the help thing because that's a very unique, like team roping problem. Obviously, there's some things like if you're going to go in the cutting, you need a good turn back crew and stuff like that. But um, yeah, it. So you right now, you said you have a guy who heals for you. If you're training horses every day and you're training head horses, and I'd say it's probably even more important if you're a healer, um, to have someone who can head well and consistently turn steers for you. But what percentage of the day is is the help involved? Like you say you're working however many hours in a day and riding all your horses. How much of that day is that guy there healing for you, or how much of that week or whatever it might be?
Okay. I mean, 4 days a week is usually when Josh is here, and I had a guy working for me before, and I've had different guys help throughout the years. Josh has a horse program right up the road from me, and it works out well. He kind of comes from a ranching background where he worked on some ranches, and he likes to get his horses outside, and he's got some uh, a good bit of young horses that it gives him another job to come down here and heal for me. And then he can learn some as well as he trains. And so it kind of works out for both of us. I get to hop in with him and go check on his cows with him and ride through them. So it gets my young horses out. So we got a good relationship there like that. But as far as the time, I mean, at least 4 days a week because we usually lope and exercise one day. And so, whether that's Monday through Thursday or Tuesday through Friday, however the week works and however the weather permits, but somewhere 3 to 4 days he's here. I could take a day and steer, stop, and breakaway rope, and he could only be here 3 days. But he makes some head horses too. So I think at night he has some steers, and he goes to his house and ride some colts in the evening, and he does that, and he works his head horses over there. But he brings three, four, five young horses that he puts on the hillside over here, and so he's here, till I get through my head horses. I only have 2 year olds, and then Taylor's got a. There's only a couple barrel horses right now, or really one that I don't head on, and you can rope on her. We don't. She's a little longer, and it really doesn't suit her that great. But pretty much everything else on the place. Now there may be a day where Taylor has three of those horses, and she's going to haul them to town to work on a pattern in a covered pen somewhere and get them out, get them away from here. Or she's exercising the horses or working them at the back of the arena on a single barrel and doing drills on them. So maybe I don't say we have 15 or 16 horses here. One of them's a semi-retired old rodeo horse of mine, but everything else is in training. We each have a futurity horse, so that leaves anywhere from a dozen to 13 horses. I'm going to work somewhere between 6 to 10 head horses a day. You know what I mean? Depending on what those horses need. So when I'm done with that, he's done. And like I said, they don't all need pounded in the ground every day. They don't need a bunch of runs, but Josh helps me. He's a great help. I appreciate the guy. He's a good buddy, and it gets his horses out somewhere different and gives them something to do. And you can watch his grow and help him develop them. And it's been a good relationship there. But that's one of the tougher things is finding help. I think somebody to come here, and because I would put it out on the internet, and you would think in the cowboy capital of the world is what they call this place, and all these ropings here and all these kids, you could put it out and say, I have before several times and said, hey, we need healers, I need somebody to show up, and I can show up this day, and this kid would be late. This kid had a vet appointment. This kid always has a flat tire. You can't depend on them, so it would be so tough.
Mhm.
And so it's nice to have a little older guy that has his own business and he's trying to build horses too. So that's worked out good for our deal. And before Josh had a great guy, uh, a kid named Caden Tinsley, and he was outstanding and just was in college here and was with me for about a year and did a great job. Before them, I've had young guys like Hadley Miller that come over, and Hadley was in school too, and he would rope and get on some colts with me. He was a good kind of all around hand and a good horseman. And Hadley was fun to be around. So we've been lucky the guys we've had come through here feel like God kind of placed them in our life at the right time. But there's definitely been times where you just like have this guy come on Tuesdays and Thursdays and this guy come on Mondays and Wednesdays, and you line it out all on Sunday and just hope it works, and that's tough that your day would be dependent around another guy showing up, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Especially a younger guy. And so it's been really nice the people we've had. We've had some really good people come through here and some really good help. And that can kind of make or break you having dependable help that'll show up that can do the job and do what's needed. And I
Yeah.
say if I call him, he helps me. He's not my help, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yes,
He
sir.
he gets
Yeah.
something out of it as well. So
It's
our
more like
deal's a
a
little
neighboring situation.
100%. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
100%. Very similar. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So that that brings up another question then, because you said this guy, he's bringing kind of his younger horses and working the heel side, and it's good for them. I guess the question I would have, how does that work to where, okay, I'm presuming like you've got a young head horse developing and he's got a young heel horse developing, or an all-around ranch horse that is healing. Do you guys have to be very careful in like how you work together? It's like, hey, like this run is to help the head horse, or this, or we can't do this, or it's going to shake the heel. Like, does that kind of make sense? Because to me, it would be really easy if it was like I'm working on my head horse and this guy's got like a been there, done that, solid jackpot heel horse, and it's the same every time. Or the guy's healing on a young horse and we've got the solid jackpot horse on the head side. But to have young horses on both sides, I would think that demands a little bit more of the horseman kind of managing the situation. Like, because you have like something go awry on the head side. Well, now you could put a spot in that heel horse because they're so green, or vice versa. Is that something you have to like be aware of, or?
Yeah, no, I think it's just a conversation you have in the morning, or well, we might even have it the night before through text, like, "Hey, what are you riding tomorrow?" And
Mhm.
what's the order we're going to ride? We're riding colts first, meaning our 3-year-olds, or we riding our 4 and 5-year-olds. At this point in the year, our 4-year-olds are pretty real and can make some pretty real runs, and so they're a little more advanced. And so we just have a conversation of, "Hey, I'm getting on this, or this is tomorrow. I want to do this on this horse, so make sure." We're riding something that we can do that on, and then he can gauge it from there, what he needs to do. And then two, even sear to sear, we talk about it on the way back up to pen. Man, I like this horse. He felt good right there. One more like that, or I'm gonna score one to get off. Or eh, and it's just kind of an unsaid thing. Like, say my horse was really good and I've been struggling that spot on him, I might get off after the run and Josh do me a favor and go back there and put this chair up and give him a rope for me, which we don't do a lot. He didn't do a lot of that, but like he would to help me out. We're on the same page and we're in each other's corner like that. And so I think just having a conversation about, on the way back up to the box, like, hey, he's like, well, I'm gonna hold out. I'm gonna do this on this run. Cool. And I'm never gonna do something out of character. We've done it enough now, and Caden was the same way with me. If you rode with me a long time, like you kind of know if a head horse is getting a little free, I'm probably going to stop him and circle the steer or steer stop, and I'll let them know. I'll just say over my shoulder, "Hey, I'm gonna stop him." They know by the end of the day they're going to get enough spins that it's going to get their horse worked. If you be
Mm-hmm.
patient with me, I'm not going to do a lot of selfish. I don't say that selfish, but it's for the horse. If I
Mm-hmm.
let my horse be pushy right off the bat and I ignore it just to get through the run so your heel horse can get worked, it won't be long until that head horse is no help to your heel horse at all. And it's not fun heading behind him because he's out of control up here and he's too pushy. So I think when you're on two young horses, typically you both need to go slow. You're both going to run slower steers, the trainers, the trotters, the lopers. You may put up the score lane and use that some. And it's going slow enough. A lot of times we'll talk through the run like, hey, I'm going to push down the pin a few strides. Once you stick it on the horn and you're just letting your horse be framed up and keep following because maybe he tried to step out too early when you dallied and he got a little quick on you there and you felt it. So you just pushed him up and you framed him up and you followed him further to the back of the end of the arena before you turn him off. Just
Mm-hmm.
having a conversation, even sometimes during a run. And then sometimes, like I said, we know each other well enough at this point. We don't always say, we don't say anything. He kind of can read the play and know what's coming. I think that would be hard to do for somebody new, but and you kind of talk through it more. But at this point, I think it's just a conversation in the morning when he shows up, he unloads his horses, and what are you going to get on first if I didn't text him the night before? And then we kind of make a game plan there, what we're going to work on, and what we're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, everything you just said, that just places more and more importance on having that reliable person
Sure. Yeah.
there to build your program. Because what you just described to me is kind of like if you're gonna go day work and you're with a good crew that has been around each other. There's usually you're in a good crew, it's not a ton of talking. Truthfully,
Right. Right.
yeah, it's kind of that same deal. Um, so with that, when you go to the shows, you were talking about, it, um, you're showing a head horse. It sounds like you've got to hire someone to
Right.
heel for you. Um, because one, if they miss completely, it's a no score, right? Like
Right.
if you're now, I hadn't really thought about this until you mentioned it earlier. If if they miss a leg, is it also a no score? Or
No, it would just add add to your time or actually take away from your total scores what it would do.
I
Uh,
see.
Now in the AQHA world, I think there's a setup different than that. I'll show in that. I really haven't had a lot to do with that. I typically am talking about like the American Road Force Futurity judging system and a lot of even the Royal Crown system is different, but they're generally based off two judges and then the time factors in as the third judge like that. And so
I got you.
if you rope a leg, their time's going to be longer because it's plus 5 seconds, which will initially hurt your score in the end.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yep.
Um, so these guys, if you're hiring someone to heel for you or vice versa, you're hiring someone to head for you, is it like people who are already going there and maybe they've got some horses competing, or they're guys that go to these futurities and that's what they're doing is like I'm the help for like five guys and that's why I hauled up here, or how does that normally work?
There's both. There's
Yeah.
both. I mean, most of the guys that I think every guy that I've ever had help me had a horse or two there showing, if not more, but
Yeah.
uh, they were showing their own and kind of understood that world good. But I mean, there are guys kind of just for hire, just there as helpers, and that's all they do, and
Hmm.
they help multiple people, and so yeah.
Now, you don't have to get into specifics at all, but generally speaking, say if I was a reliable healer that someone wanted to hire me, like, am I getting paid by the run, by the event, and like what is that number? look
I
like? I'm
think
sure it
I think
varies.
different guys, like some people are a set price. This is what it is, no matter. Some people are this much and a third of the winnings. Uh, and then some
Oh,
people
okay.
have deals like, hey, you help me with your horses, I'll help you with mine. They're both high level guys, and so they don't have to pay each other. It just cancels it out or whatever. So there's some of that that goes on. Yeah, I just think it kind of goes case by case. I think overall, generally I've done a set price deal with a guy. This is what he say this what it is, and or I do this or this, well, I go with a set price, and do that. And some guys are, well, it's this, and if I miss one or leg one, it's this, and so
Oh,
that helps
interesting.
too. Yeah, that helps too. That way you pay a guy a large sum of money to go out there and essentially not do his job, and not that he's not trying, but everybody makes mistakes. So I think that that's a cool way to do it too. I've heard that. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, because I mean, how much you get paid at the end of the day is based on your performance.
yeah,
So to have a similar setup for him, that makes sense. And
sure. Yeah.
and honestly, all of it makes sense. But again, it's just a lot different than walking into the show pen by yourself to do a reining pattern
Oh,
or
for
what.
sure. Yeah,
I
for sure.
just hadn't thought about all these factors.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So you mentioned kind of your thoughts on a young trainer developing and the route they should take. Let's talk a little bit about kind of how you got to where you are. So, I guess my first question, did you have someone that you worked for, like you were in their program and kind of gave you an idea of how you wanted to run things before you went out on your own, or were you more, I don't know, self-taught's probably not the right word, but there's basically two types of trainers. There's the trainers that didn't work for anybody and just kind of like started in the backyard and moved, like went all the way up. And then there's the people that did work for somebody and then eventually carried that into their own program. So can you talk a little bit about your development?
Yeah. I in Louisiana, I just jackpotted and went to the amateur rodeos and kind of did that every weekend. And I would ride a couple colts every evening. Usually had a colt or two for somebody, and that's just something I enjoyed doing. And I could do it, and I wasn't scared to do it, and I knew a little bit of groundwork, and would get on them and make some cool colts that people went on the ranch on or rope on or whatever. And that was cool. And
And that
uh,
foundation, where did you learn that from?
man, my dad. I don't mean to make it out to sound like he was some big horseman, but he taught me how to like flag one out, tie one's head around, drive one, how to get around one on the ground, how to pick up his feet, a lot of that. And then just from us not having a lot of money and him not growing up with a lot of money and having to make their own horses. And then, same with us, really. Just a blue collar, middle class, lower middle class family that, we couldn't afford to go out and buy horses. So we made them. And so that's, uh, you learn how to do that stuff, and so I would, as a kid, I was infatuated with it. I would read Western Horseman cover to cover. My family would get me like a subscription for Christmas. That was one of the things. And that would kind of take me across the United States. And I'd learn about guys like Buck Brannaman, Ray Hunt, and Tom Dorrance, and guys like that. And just be in amazement looking at those cedar post round pens that they were in and just think that was the coolest freaking thing ever. And you would try to understand, and some of the riders could convey it better than others. And you're just trying to figure out what or how are they getting this done, with these horses. And the pictures just look so romantic and cool. And I got to be around in junior high. My dad had a buddy in town that trained some cutting horses, and just for fun, really. I don't even think he competed that much. And I got to go there a couple nights a week in his little round pen, and they had 4 or 5 cows they fed out, and they would cut them and work a flag. And that's where I had my 2-year-old riding, and then I would take him over there and they would show me how to pull around on him and kick around on him and stuff. And then I would get to go to, like, my dad was always real good about taking us to people that knew more than him about a horse, whether that be to a 4-H clinic that, like, There's a guy in my hometown, Mr. Joe Womack. He would talk about just something simple like saddle cleaning or taking care of your tack, or Joe would talk about handling a horse or whatever clinic we could go to, a 4-H horse judging clinic he'd get me to, or even when he got me around the guys that did rope in our hometown, the Dartys, and I traded out work, he knew those guys, and that they heard we were interested in roping, and we could rope the dummy and do rope tricks and play 1 foot and rope the dummy all every day. We were infatuated with it, but we didn't have the end to like go over there to rope.
Hmm.
And so Dad kind of opened the door for that and talked to him, and we were able to go. Me and my younger brother Matthew, we were able to go over there and trade out ranch work for roping. Learning how to rope, we could put it together so we could ride a horse really well. We had both made our colts, and they would ride around, and they were very gentle, and you could do a lot with them. But we hadn't tracked a cow. You could swing a rope on them and about do anything you wanted on them, but we hadn't put it all together. So that was a place we could put it all together. And then there was another guy in my hometown, Troy Hall, that had some steers, a guy named Clint Thrash, and then a guy named Grit Cheek. He would let me come over and clean stalls and rope at his place and let me learn to rope at his place. And man, he would give me odd jobs. That guy was great to me. And had it not been for those guys and Dad getting me around those guys that knew more about roping than me and about horses, I wouldn't have had that basis on it. And then, as technological, as like times got more technologically advanced, I guess stuff like Chris Cox would come out on DVD, and then you had RFD putting those guys on there. And so you would watch those guys on there. And then I kind of took his interest in the Colt deal and like, well, I've done this before a couple of times. Surely I could learn to be better at it. And I just wasn't scared to get out there and fail, really. And I mean, if you'll
Hmm.
fail enough times and do it every day, you'll get decent at it if you really want to be good at it. I've said for a long time that you could take a kid that had very mediocre horsemanship skills, but if he was passionate and hungry about it, and he would ask the questions and he would read and he would nowadays get online and buy the subscriptions or whatever, listen
Yep.
to the podcasts, man, you could get pretty good if you'd go out there every day and do it. And so I think when I decided to come to Texas and kind of press restart and leave a good job, and instead of depending on a check from a normal job, and you're riding horses in the evening, it become a whole thing. It was a lot to bite off, especially moving away from all the people I knew with horses,
Yeah.
you know. But what it did do was allow me to get around guys that were so much better than me at it, that had been doing it for years. And so I got into it. I'm in my 30s at this point when this happens, not in my 20s. If I could go back and do it over, I would have went and worked for a guy. And I think that is the way to go for the right
Hmm.
guy. I think that's very important that like you're with the right guy, because there's a lot of trainers out here, and make sure that like, I'm not saying that you need to feel like they owe you something in any way, but there's a difference in somebody talking to you harshly because you're not doing your job well or you're not trying, and somebody doing it just because they wake up and they got a drinking problem or they're unhappy in their marriage or they got a lot to pay for around their ranch. And that's kind of bold to say that. And I'm not really pointing fingers at anybody saying that. I think there's a lot of that. And I don't mean specifically in the rope horse industry. I mean the horse industry
That's
as a whole.
every horse
Yes.
town, like
Yeah.
anywhere that's a big. That's Weatherford, Texas. That's
Yeah.
Ocala, Florida.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
So
up
yeah,
any horse town you could go to. There are grumpy old horse trainers who are in over their head with some sort of situation in their life.
that's right. And that's not that kid's fault. And that kid is going to be lost, and they're there because they're hungry. Now there's again, like I said earlier, there's two sides of that. If that kid's not waking his ass up and getting to the barn early, and he's not staying late, and he's not going above and beyond, and he's not asking the questions in the right moment, because you don't do it in the heat of the moment. But if you're not somewhere where you can ask questions and learn or see good hands working, you probably should go somewhere else. And I
Hmm.
say that. I also think there's a thing when you do get somewhere, be loyal and ride for the brand and be 100% all in, and try to learn from them. I think that's a great thing. So I was in my 30s when I got here and kind of had to sink or swim. And so I did it for a while. And man, it was tough because I'd only have 3 or 4 horses. And thank God my brother had a stud that he stood and still stands. And he would have people that would buy colts off that stud. And they knew I'd train that stud. And also that I had worked with some of his babies, and so they would send me horses by that stuff. That helped give me some business early on. I usually had one or two of those in training, and thank God they were good minded. I always had an easy one at the end of the day because of
Yeah.
them. Because I had some real other junk in there that was a mixed bag of stuff. They might be a 3 or 4 year old horse, or a hey, I've been breeding this horse, but I want to, I want to send him to you. How old is he? He's 4. He doesn't ride, like, but it just wild. And you would have to get through them because you had to eat, and you had
Yeah.
to pay
Yeah.
rent.
So
And,
so I don't want to I feel like you've skipped over it, and
yeah,
because you like have lived it, but
yeah.
and I don't mean to cut you off, but
No, you're good.
the fact that you're like, I'm going to move from Louisiana to Texas in my 30s,
Yeah,
having not worked for anyone,
yeah.
and I'm going to basically, like, in a lot of ways, you're moving to the snake pit, right?
Oh, it
Like,
sounds so stupid when you say it out loud.
yeah,
It
yeah.
does.
So can you if you can, like, go back and like take us through like what's going through your mind? Because so when you were in Louisiana before you moved to Texas, and you were not training horses full time in Louisiana, you
No.
had a day job. What was your day
Yeah.
job?
I worked for the Secretary of State on voting machines. I mean, sat on my butt really, like
Yeah.
didn't do much. I had a roping dummy in that warehouse that held those voting machines. I did a whole lot of roping that dummy.
Yeah.
Um, I yeah, that and just wasted away. And so I couldn't wait till 3:30 to get off and get on a horse. But I don't think I even had the idea, even in my early 30s or my 20s, that like you could come to Texas and get a job as an assistant. Like I would take somebody now that were like, hey, I don't know what you know, but I want to know what you know,
Hmm.
and I'll come work for you for free until I'm you worth paying. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, and
Yeah.
I'll do this stuff to learn what you know. And I didn't know. Had I known that, I'd have done that at 18. I'd
Yeah.
have probably dropped out of high school and did that, to be honest with you, because
Yeah.
I always wanted to do it, but I didn't know the way in.
Yeah.
And I had a buddy that moved out here before me, and he shot horses and was rodeoing. And I came out here with him a couple weekends. And man, I would go to the jackpots with him or Northside. There's a place that has a weekly rodeo, and I thought this is like Disneyland. Everyone ropes. There's arenas everywhere. It's just everyone's good at it. I got to get here, and so I thought if I could get here, it was going pretty well for him. And I thought if he could do it, I could do it. And thank God he came before me and gave me a little hope like that. And so I just
Mm.
took the I had 10 or 12 years at that state job and benefits, and didn't make much at all. Like, I mean, it was a good job for the area, a good, safe job. And I mean,
Yeah.
sit on your bum and get fat. But I don't think it's anything that anybody can look back at their life and really be proud of, in my head. And that's not running anybody down. It just is what it is. I think.
Yeah.
uh,
Isn't it funny how like all it took, like you saw someone else do it? And
yeah,
I mean, there's so many things like that in life. Because honestly, man, that's like I was kind of doing the same thing. I was working at a desk job. Every day I would sit down, I'd have 3 computer screens in front of me, and I'd sit at those 3 computer screens all day at that desk for like 8 hours a day. And like you, I couldn't wait to get outside and go ride horses. And I just finally got around enough people that were making a living training horses, and I was watching them make a living training horses, and I was like, man, I'm not trying to run anybody down, but if they're making a living training horses, like
yeah,
surely I can go
yeah,
out there and do
yeah.
it.
Yeah. And he, like I say, he was shooting horses. He wasn't even training. He was shooting horses and
Yeah.
amateur
But
amateur
you saw him
rodeos.
bet on himself.
Yeah, you bet. And he knew a guy that had come out here before him. So it was just like we had seen it done. Granted that, everybody's journey is different. All of us, some of us had help, some of us didn't. And he didn't, and for the most part. And so he had made his way, and I just thought, man, it looks so cool. I got to get there. And I remember leaving when I told people I was leaving. I kind of saved up for a year and got ready to go, and everybody kind of knew I was leaving in that area. And it's a small area, especially in the horse world. And like people thought I was an idiot. In fact, I had a guy stop. He was dropping a horse off to my buddy down the road the other day. I didn't have room for him. And I said, I don't have room for him, but my buddy Josh does down the road, and he'll do you a good job. And so they brought the horse out. And there's a buddy from Louisiana. I really liked the guy. And he said, man, I owe you an apology. And I said, for what? Like, and he's like, man, when you moved, I told people you were an idiot to leave that good job like that. And he's like, look at you now. And I don't say that at all to brag on myself. It was just a moment where I thought, y'all think I made it. Because I still sweat my guts out every day and work real hard, but I do what I love and I'm my own boss and I have great horses. And like, I am living the dream. The dream is just real damn hard.
Yes, sir.
It is. It don't, the horses we ride now, if you told me I had 5 years ago, I'd have laughed at you. I mean, we got cool stuff and great clients and get to do great stuff together. But he really did right there in my front yard. And he was like, I thought you were nuts for coming out and look at the work you put in. Look at it. I'm so dang proud of you and all your sponsors and all the horses that you have. And I'm just like, man, I didn't know you thought that. I knew a lot of other people thought that. You kept it to yourself around me. And he said, well, I told other people that, you know, you know, but there was a lot of people when I left, like, man, you're going to quit that. And I remember like it was yesterday, like putting in my resignation and they were like, you're quitting this. Your people wait all their life to get a job like this. And I'm like, not me, I'm out. And I seemed like an idiot for probably the first 3 or 4 years out here because I worked part-time jobs and then come home and ride colts because I didn't have enough colts to pay
Mhm.
rent and do everything. So I tell you what you do, go get you a job digging sprinkler systems in neighborhoods and new housing developments during the summer in Texas, and then come home and get on you 3 and 4 year olds that hadn't been rode before. And then one 2 year old for my brother's program, and you do that all day and you get in at 3:30 in the evening and it's hot and you get on them colts, it'll make you ride horses good or you'll figure out if you want to do it.
Yeah.
And so I'm the kind of guy that I can flip off a switch. And when I want to do it, that's what I do. And I'll jokingly say, like, I can run to Canada if I want. I can't. That's running's always something I can do. I can shut out the mechanism or pain or hurt or whatever and just do it because I was driven and that's what I was going to do. And so once I decided, no, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to ride horses, that's what I did. And so I did at one point in there, I did go to work for a guy, I got an opportunity to go work for a big futurity trainer. And that was pretty short lived because I think I was a little older and had I been a little younger, it might have been better and I might could have taken that situation a little better. But
Mhm.
as a grown man that, I knew I could go ride colts on my own and make the same money I was making there. And it probably just would have been a better situation for me than what I was in. And so that was pretty short lived there. But what I did see while I was there was kind of how some of this operated for the few months I was there was like, okay, well, different one, like something small. I make the joke about it now, but I remember like the first day I was there putting a bridle on a horse and like, I thought that was that horse's bridle. And I thought when I put it on it, man, that bridle seems snug. But again, it's my first day. They said, grab that bridle. I grabbed that bridle and I ran one steer with that bridle on. And like that guy sure enough did talk to me and he gave me a pretty good cussing about how tight that bridle was, and I should have checked the bridle. And I didn't know that those bridles went on multiple horses. And
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like I thought, in my small background, I thought you just put a bridle on a horse, and this is whatever's horse, this is Joe's
Right.
bridle. And so I just, things like that were out. Now, oh man, you come to the barn with 20 bridles and have a rack here and you stuck them on there. That's what you were going to use for the day. And you might put that same bridle on 4 horses. And I didn't know that. And so I
Yep.
just felt dumb. I felt dumb a lot because I didn't know, but I understood a lot when I left there of, okay, all right, this is how that works. All right. And these are some bits that you could use. And so just by watching, not much by asking, there wasn't much knowledge being passed around there for me, but they were really, they do really well. And it just was not a good situation for me at my age. Like I said, I think I had been younger. I'd already been through the army in my early 20s and I grew up with a good work ethic. And I'm the kind of guy that like, I'm going to be the first at the barn and the last to leave. And if I'm going to put forth that effort, I hope I'm getting knowledge back and hope I'm getting treated with some sort of respect. And so that being said, that was a kind of short-lived deal, and I went right back to the Colts and riding them Colts again. And I took a Colt, and I just one thing led to another, and I had one by my brother's stud, and I'd really taken good care of him. And he was a 2 year old, and it was the fall of his 2 year old year. And I had him riding around what I think probably people wouldn't have their snaffle bit colts riding around like in the fall of their 2 year old year. Really nice, a really good horse. And I sold him to like make money to buy saddles and pay bills and debt. And just, I didn't want to at all. He's the best horse I ever made. And he was sure enough fancy and really cool. And I even didn't know. I put him on Facebook to sell, and I bet I got 500 calls in that first 24 hours. And people wanting him, and people, hey, if that guy that's buying him doesn't get him, you call me first, and
Mhm.
because he looked good. And he looked the part. He was well kept, and he really did ride around well. Well, I sold him to a guy in about the first afternoon. I guess I put him up that morning, and by that afternoon, he was sold. And the calls still kept coming in because I didn't have the money yet. And it's a funny story now because this guy's still a client to this day. But he was a he was retiring from the police department in Nevada, so he'd seen all the swindling and hustling people do over the internet, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know this guy, and I'm thinking he's going to try to get a shipper there and trick me and hustle me out of the best horse I've ever made. And we're both on the phone like, hey, are you going to send the money? Hey, is this horse really there? Is this really even a thing? So he sends a guy over, a kid that he knows from Nevada that had moved here. And the kid was like, oh, yeah, he saw watching me ride the horse. Yes, sir. The horse is here. He's really nice. He's everything he said he was. And he actually let me on him. And he's talking to the guy on the phone with me. So the guy wires the money in. And until still this day, we talk about like he thought he was getting hustled a little bit. I thought I was getting hustled. And, we were just both so nervous. And now we're the best of friends. But what he did with him was he said, man, he's like my retirement gift to myself, sort of. And I'd like a really nice head horse. I'm a low number guy. I want a really good jackpot horse. And I'd like to have a really nice horse like him. And I said, man, shoot you. He said, would you keep him and ride him a little more? So 6 months turned into a year, which was great because he didn't leave. And, will you keep this one and ride him longer? Will I keep the best, easiest, best looking horse I have longer? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I didn't want him to leave in the first place, and so
Yeah.
he came into his 3 year old year, and now I've got him in a like bridling riding around one handed, and he's able to go outside and do stuff. And then he's like, I start tracking the lead steer around him, and I start turning steers on him, and he's like, man, he looks great. Keep him going. And we would get to be good friends because he would fly in a few times a year and ride him, and he would be exactly well kept, well groomed, ride exactly where I said he was. He was user friendly, and then I developed trust in that relationship, and we became
Mhm.
friends, me and him. Then he came into his 4 year old year, and I remember a good friend of mine, Slick Robinson. He's like a mentor of mine, and I learned so much from that guy. But I was at his house. At this point, I was over at his place, training out of his place, not just like leasing stalls from him, not working for him, but training beside him, and able to ask questions. And I learned so much from that guy. And I remember he got on and ran one, and he got off and said, you know, well, you think that guy would take 50 for him? And I was just like, whoa, like that blew my mind after one steer. But he had seen me riding this horse and he knew what he was.
Mhm.
But he had never felt him, and he felt him. And that was an astronomical amount of money years ago for a rope horse. And I was sick because I was going to call this client. I just knew this guy was going to say yes. And there goes my best horse. And I
Yeah.
called him, and he said, well, if he's worth that now, what will he be worth this fall at the rope horse futurity? And man, you know how glad I was to hear that. And so that horse goes to the rope horse futurity. It's my first futurity on him. It's his first futurity. And we take him there to Fort Worth to the World Championship, American Rope Horse Futurity, and I win the limited reserve World Championship on him. And that horse should have won uh, the world. And I don't say this to down my helper, but to brag on that horse, he won that with a leg. That guy roped a leg on one of our steers, and he would have outright won it. He had showed really well. And so that kind of put me on the map as though he's more than a 2 year old guy. He can take one all the way through. So then I started getting rope horses in my program. And so half of my program would be 2 year olds. I had 5 2 year olds and 5 young head horses.
Mhm.
And then it got to be more of that, more of head horses heavy. The more I did it and showed that I could do a good job of it and would take my time. And I say do it right. Do it how I do it anyway. I don't know any other way to do it. What works for me. It might not be right for somebody else, but it's what works for me. But had it not been for that one guy, I mean, my brother having a cool stud to put one on the ground like that, and then that guy believing in me selling my best one that seemed crazy at the time. Um, I remember people, my buddies back home, some of the guys I'd rodeo with me were laughing at me saying, there's no way he's going to bring what I was asking for him as a 2-year-old. He's not worth that. Horses don't bring, rope horse prospects. So he's not a cutter or a cow horse. He's just and I asked it, and I had a lot of people that wanted to buy him because I'd done a really good job on him. There's not a lot of people, Joe, that do a good job on a 2-year-old, have him looking the part, and he's user friendly. It's just not. You would think it would be out there more, but it's just not. And when you see that
Mhm.
horse nowadays, everybody wants him. I want him. I had a client. You know what a good flashy 2-year-old is that's bred right, and you could take him outside and ride him one hand, and he's in the bridle a little bit, then a little light bridle. Dude, freaking at the end of his 2-year-old year, in his 3-year-old year, I can find you a buyer for him. Everyone wants that horse with the futurities nowadays. That's a
Mhm.
great prospect. So, but it wasn't like that at the time. And so those guys thought I was crazy, and I got made fun of a little bit, just through text and Snapchat or whatever. Them razz. I mean, he's not going to bring that, and he did. And by that afternoon, brought that, and that guy stayed with me,
Yeah.
and still today he has a horse in training with me, and we've had a really good business relationship together. Now he's like family to me. That guy is. We've trained some really cool horses together. I'm super jealous of his horse every day because he's bought some of my coolest ones, and I've trained some of his coolest ones. And that guy's name's Curtis Whiskey, and we love Curtis. And because of Curtis trusting me with that horse, it allowed other people to believe in me, and
Mhm.
sponsors and other people. So it just takes one horse, like we talked about earlier. God trusts in you with a little bit, and you doing a lot with it. You doing your best with it. And so there's a verse in there too that says, "Do everything as unto the Lord." And uh, maybe I'm not the guy you want to follow, but I bet Jesus Christ is the guy you want to follow. And I would say, if you would do everything, whatever it you're doing, if you're cleaning the stall, if you're grooming the horse, shoeing the horse, if you'll do it not like a job, but if you'll do it to bring him glory. That and I don't know that I always had a clear picture of that. Sometimes it was selfish, and there are moments it's selfish, but I got to a point in life now where, like, I don't train horses because I want to be famous or known on the internet. Now, do we promote ourselves on social media? Yeah, that's kind of part of the game now, but I get to do what I love. I could have never dreamed of. I, I mean, I did dream of, but I never dreamed it'd come true, of doing it with my best friend. She's gorgeous. I get to look at a pretty woman and ride rank horses all day long and train them for like the coolest clients, and have clients from all over the United States and sponsors behind you that love you and believe in you. Man, if you can't wake up and be happy and be motivated about doing that, but it was a real long road to like get to just the point I'm at. And I'm so far, because I started late in the game, I'm so far behind so many of the guys that I look up to that do it and are more advanced than me, and so I'm picking those brains and asking those guys questions every time I get around them, or going to their house and trying to rope with them and see,
Mhm.
have them get on my horses or look at my horses and send them a video, because I'm still that same guy that's hungry, that still wants to know more, that still wants to be better and learn more, both so I can make the best horse I can make, also for my client, but for me, just the pride that I have in making a good horse, like the enjoyment I get to see that horse be the best he can be while I have him.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you kinda you mentioned it, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I go through that same thing where it's like, if you wanna do everything you do to to glorify God, right? And but it's tough because there is a lot of the horse trainer world where it can turn into selfish stuff really quick.
Yeah.
And and for me personally, I mean, I go through that when what what it is, the red flag that pops up for me is like the horses start telling me. You know what I mean? Because I feel like when it starts being about Joe a little bit too much, then I am maybe a lot of horses, especially good-minded horses, they'll let you press and like try to, get ready for the next show or whatever it is. But the ones that are really sent, maybe it's usually like the not as nice ones. Like
Right.
they'll let you know when you're doing something, and I'm not abusing them or anything, but when you're
Right.
doing something because you're like trying to get this done and you're
Right.
trying to get it done for Joe, not trying to get it done for the horse because that's the ride they need today.
Right.
Right. And that's always the hard part with competition. But I feel like I'm better at handling it now because I I'd like to think I can kind of realize what's going on. It's usually when I'm starting to get burnout or something else besides horses is bothering me. But what will happen is it just feels like everything gets on the muscle a little bit, and then I'll have the thought like, man, like today it doesn't even feel like I like horses or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and like you're gonna have those days.
Yeah.
Um it might sound super romantic, just ride like it is great. Everything you just said is great. And I feel the same way about getting to work with my wife and getting to have the opportunities I have. But there are days where it's like, man, I remember when I liked horses, and today is like not like today. I'm just trying to get done. Um, but
Joe, it's Thursday, and at 4:30 this morning, I was not this chipper or positive. I can tell you that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, and so everyone listening, just remember you're listening to two horse trainers that are like finally sitting inside for the day. They're in the AC.
That's
They're
very
like
important.
BSing with their buddy. Like it's hard to be this idyllic. Like, man, I get to serve God and
Yeah.
do all these things and
Yeah.
glorify Him. Like, it would be great if we had this exact same attitude out there in the heat of battle.
That's
But
right.
I'm gonna tell you, it's not always the case.
Yeah.
But what does happen is you get the right people around you, you get the right perspective, you get a little more growth and experience in your life. And I feel like for me, I start to catch when I have those days. Because it used to be if I got angry or pissy or just in a bad mood, it would stick around all week. And now I'm at a point where it takes like it's like half a day. And by like the afternoon, I'm over. I'm like, okay, I'm too focused on this thing or that thing, and I just need to focus on like what this horse needs this day. And I know I'm kind of rambling and going down a tangent, but one, it's my podcast, and two, I think it's
If they don't
important for
like it, they can turn it off.
yeah, exactly. But I think it's important for people to know that whether you're trying to train horses or chase any sort of like dream that's very difficult, right? And for
Yeah.
you and me, our dream is to be horse trainers.
Yeah.
The the thing that is so impressive is like you had to go through like all these crappy days, right?
Yeah.
And then finally on the other side, it was like, oh, now we look back however many years later and there was a clear path. But you
Yeah.
didn't know you were on that path at the time. It's just touch and go. And you're like trusting the process. And you're like, I just don't know. Are we going to make it to the end of this month? Are we going to make it to the end of this year? Whatever it is. Um, and and that can be really hard in the moment. I think it's important to people to hear that because there are a lot of horse podcasts out there now where people get on and they just talk about how great everything is and the industry's booming and life is great. And it's like everybody has the struggle. And I think it's important for
Yeah.
people to realize that.
I think it's important too that, like in those moments, is even when me and you do get frustrated or where bodies just give out and tired, you need a break. Like, I think to know your why,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that's huge. Like you said, me and you, our dream is to be horse trainers, but like, I think the confusion gets where people's dream is to be cool.
Yep.
That's not horse trainer. And the only way, uh, Andy Holcomb or Trevor Brazil or any number of names that is in the real horse futurity world, or Ashley Schaefer in the barrel horse world, or Cassie Mowry, any of those people that are at the top of their craft in those futurity worlds, the only way they are cool is because they toughed it out on those days and they knew their why. Their why wasn't being rich and famous or having sponsors or being on the internet or magazine covers. Their why was they loved the horse and that's what they wanted to do with their life. And if you understand that, then it doesn't matter the levels of success as much. Then my success more looks like, am I making good horses? Are my clients happy? Now, if I win a little bit at the shows here and there, man, that would be cool. That's icing on the cake, cool stuff.
Mhm.
But my purpose can't be wrapped up in winning because there's very few people, unless you're Joseph Harrison in the rope horse utility world, or Trevor Miles, or one of those guys. I mean, maybe Dakota. I'm just trying to think of a handful of guys that win all the time. They're kind of household names. Unless you're one of them, you probably don't winning enough to make it feel like you're really winning. And still, they're not winning all the time, on every horse. So it's like, I don't know that you can win enough to ever feel satisfied. Your satisfaction and your purpose and your why and your meaning of success better be pretty clear, or you're always going to feel frustrated. You're always going to feel like you're trying to keep up with the Joneses and have the nice rig and have the nice thing. Well, if I had that horse, or you're going to start making excuses for yourself when, like, those people didn't get there making excuses. They worked their butts off. I don't care if you like them as people or their personalities or how they do it. If they're at the top of their game, they had days like this and they knew their why and they knew their purpose. And
Yeah,
so the winning was a reflection of the time they spent and the skill set that they developed, you know?
absolutely. Well, again, to your point, if you're chasing the winning, it's that expression. Most men spend a lifetime trying to fill a God-sized hole in their heart, right?
Yeah,
And I I believe the whole reason I got into this is I believed, I was like, working with horses is what God put me on this earth to do. Like,
that's
it's
right.
what I want to do. And what's cool, you were talking about your client, uh, Curtis. I think what people, that's his name, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I People don't realize, like, the horse business is still the people business, right?
Uh-huh.
So obviously that guy's had a real positive impact on your life and meant a lot to you guys, but you have the chance to do the same thing for him and every one of your clients. I mean, man, even me, like, just starting, like, the backyard colt that, like, means the world to someone who's, maybe that is going to be their retirement horse, and just getting their horse that they're in love with gentle enough that they can go and ride him in retirement. Like, that means the world to people, you
Yeah.
know. Um and, making the nice rope horse, maybe making the futurity horse, whatever it is, like, you can I try to remember that too. There's a very broad impact. It's not just trotting in circles making nice horses. It's like the impact that comes with that. And
Yeah.
and hopefully, if you're doing it for the right reasons, it's a positive impact.
So that one horse that Curtis had, just a random thought, it just popped in my head that now he is a jackpot horse for Curtis, but during the summers, his neighbor takes him out and he picks up at pro rodeos on him and pulls bulls out at PBRs on him. And then that guy's mom will take him to like ranch trail courses and win on him at those.
Yeah.
And so he's a good horse. You know what I mean? Like, can
Yeah.
do what, and I think that's what I'm proud of. That one horse is able to affect so many people too, and bring
Yeah.
so many people joy and happiness because he was a well-rounded, good horse. And I think that that's special that that horse is still going and still cool. And I could
Mhm.
hop on him today and still win at a jackpot. I know I will anytime I get a chance. Like, he's cool, and then horses like that bring in people to your life, like my CSI pad sponsorship. Well, then we were with them for a few years, and we had a horse for a client in the Rancho Rio. So, well, thank God for that client believing in us because we had a horse there. Well, then we were able to, while we were in Wickenburg and had that horse in that sale, we were able to meet Donna, who owned CSI. She had a trailer set up with those saddle pads, and she saw what good care we took of that horse that we had in that sale, Nickel, that great horse. And so he sold really well for that client, did really well. And she thought, you know what? I think I'd like to put a horse in training with you. So she sticks a horse in training with me last year at the beginning of the year. And we kept him for a year, and he was basically like a trail riding horse. When he came to us, not basically, he was, and performance horse wise, he wasn't very broke for that, but he was gentle as a trail riding horse. He didn't buck or anything, but he needed some work. And we had him for a year, and that developed a relationship with us and her. Like every horse leads to the next horse, leads to the next person. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And then that horse went to Rancho Rio and did really well last year for her. And we sold him in the top 10% of that sale. And like, and we're even better friends with her now after that experience. Now she's bought into the colt with us, and we have a really, that horse's name was Frenchie. We have a really cool horse named Shiner, and Taylor's got him hauling him on the barrels, but I rope on him too, and we're going to do. He's gorgeous, and he's a dream horse. And all that to say, I tell that story is like every horse leads to every client. Every horse
Hmm.
matters. Every person matters. They lead to the next. And if you do right by them, it just keeps giving back to you. The blessing keeps coming back to you because you did your job well with what you were trusted with. You know, great people keep coming into your life, sponsors and clients and people, mentors, you know, that guys will give you the time of the day, or guys will let you come over and rope their steers with them just because they see you taking care of your stuff and doing a good job with your stuff, and they know you're trying, you know, so they're like, yeah,
Hmm.
shoot, yeah, come ride with me anytime. And don't say that to me because I'm showing up. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to learn what it is that makes you special, or try to anyway, you know, take some of it. Because I think what I do is a dang sure a mixed bag of a lot of guys, from my dad to all these guys, you know, the guys in Log Cabin, Louisiana, the guys all around Texas that have let me come over and poured into me, had I not. And then podcast, Cow Horse Full Contact podcast, and Rain Cow Horse online, and you know all the things that X Factor things, Horse Pro TV, all the things that you could buy subscriptions to. I would do that because I was hungry, and I still will. And I think you gotta keep digging, and you gotta keep. I guess you don't have to, but if you want to keep growing and you keep getting better and not stagnant, you sure better do that. You sure better
Yeah.
keep sharpening your knife. You know.
100%. 100%. Well, and all that goes back to, again, you help make those horses and put them out into the world, and then you take the next horse and that one goes out into the world. And what it means is that you, David Sharp, you are a builder and a creator, and not a taker and destroyer,
That
right?
is
Like
that is yeah.
you are what you are a net positive in this world if you can go out and help those people and help those horses, and those horses touch a lot of lives and all that stuff. Um, and I try to keep that perspective, um, because that if you keep that perspective, one, your horses seem to stay a lot happier, and then two, you get like you said, it's like you send it out into the world and then the blessings come back, and you send it out into the world and the blessings come back, and then that final point you made, yeah, you got to keep your knife sharp and your powder dry, man. Like you got to keep wanting that, because that's the other thing. As soon as you stop wanting that, I think then you might as well be like, taking care of voting machines in Louisiana. Like
Yeah.
you're just going to work and doing a job. It's not your
Yeah.
craft anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think for me, it's one of the reasons why we'll still take a couple of 2-year-olds. And we do love the long term deal where we get a 2-year-old in and keep them for, through their 4 and 5-year-old year. You really get to know that horse. You don't have to rush anything. I love that. But I think also that helps me keep my knife sharp. Is like I could have all head horses out here at this point, but having those nice 2-year-olds are really well bred. Both of them that we have them long term. And I think that keeps me sharp. Is like, hey, do the fundamentals. Keep the fundamentals. It never changes. Then the fundamentals never change. You still got to go through that. And if I'm going through that on those horses, I think it helps me on my head horses, keeps me sharp on my 3-year-olds and my 4-year-olds. That I ride those 2-year-olds at the end of the day or beginning of the day, whenever I choose to ride them. But it keeps me dialed in and riding right and not phoning it in, or
Mhm.
oh, this horse isn't good enough. Like, no, we still make horses. That's an easy out to say this horse isn't talented. Now there are horses that are levels of talent, but for the most part, those every one of them can make something nice.
Yeah.
He may not necessarily be a show horse, a futurity horse, or a high end jackpot horse, but it could be a weekend horse or somebody that they really, really like and take to the jackpot and compete and the 8, 9 point and really enjoy that horse. And he's safe and he's broke good and he knows his job well. Well, that horse is worth a lot too. He's worth a whole lot because a lot of people can ride that horse.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I, it just goes back to that same thing. You just have to, whatever you're given, you just have to put your hand to it, make it better, and it'll just keep circulating back.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Awesome. Man, I think that's a really good note to end on
Appreciate it.
personally. I we kind of got into the weeds, but I think there's actually a lot of good stuff in this podcast. I really enjoyed talking with you today, David.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Joe. I think what you guys are, I listen to On the Move. There's not a whole lot of Western industry podcasts out there. And I think y'all's has a variety of guys from trainers to people that do different jobs in the business. And I just appreciate what you guys do putting it out there. Cause if you're not willing to share that info, and horse industry is kind of this weird thing where like it's a catch 22. You can't know what you don't know. But like if guys don't share that, how does it ever get out there? So I think what you guys do is huge, and I appreciate you having me on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we sign off, do you want to plug your business, social media, and all that sort of stuff if people want to get a hold of y'all?
Oh shoot, yeah, we're on all of it. Just as Sharp Horses on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all that. We put content on there, and it's not to show out or really look cool, but like it's just kind of you can follow those horses as we go along, and maybe you can grab some motivation from a post here and there, or learn something here and there. And we're always open to for anybody with questions or if you got a horse you want to put in training, we usually stay pretty full up, but we do have a waiting list, and uh, I think it's a blessing to do what we do. We're lucky to have each other and do what we do, Taylor and I. So that just Sharp Horses is all we are on everything.
Awesome. Yeah, it to your credit, your content is very cool. Like I'm not a team roper by any means, but like your content, I love when your reels pop up because you guys do a good job with all your social media stuff.
Well, I
It
appreciate
looks
that,
good.
Taylor.
It looks sharp.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, everybody, thanks for listening. Again, David, thanks for coming on, and we'll see you guys in a couple weeks.